My guess is you've been sitting around surfing the internet more than usual. Guys, did you know that as the coronavirus worsens, hackers are working harder than ever to steal your data and your personal information? Are you sure your identity and browsing history are protected? I have been using NordVPN for the past few years because it allows me to safely browse the internet without being traced. NordVPN's military-grade encryption hides your location and encrypts all your data, whether you send it or you're receiving it. And if you want to try NordVPN risk-free, that's a 30-day money-back guarantee. Plus, you're going to save 70% on a 3-year plan and receive 1 month free for only $3.49 a month. Just go to nordvpn.org/Sonnen or click on the link in the description and get this special offer.
Hey, Chael, how did the fight with Jon Jones end up happening?
The Jon Jones fight, that was a really fun time for me, and I'll tell you why. So let's back up. That was going to be UFC 151. Dan Henderson, my teammate, versus Jon Jones. And I will tell you, I wanted to see that fight so bad. Now, I think Jon has gone on to prove how great he is, but Dan would have given him some interesting looks in a lot of different positions. He really would have. Dan's one of these guys that was really hard to take down, and he had that great equalizer of the right hand. And at that time, which was 2013, Dan was right in his prime. Dan also had something that I've always liked in terms of breaking down who's going to win this fight and making a prediction to favor my teammate Dan. But one thing about Dan Henderson, he had never lost, ever. This might still be true to this day. I'd have to go back and look. But in 2013, he had never lost a fight where he was the underdog. Dan Henderson had beaten Fedor. Dan Henderson had beaten Big Nog. Guys that, multiple-time world champions at heavyweight. He was a middleweight. And then he'd also do a lot of work in between at light heavyweight. But we knew he had the skills. There was also something to the approach. Whenever people thought he couldn't win, he always won. He was batting 100%. Now, this isn't to revise and make believe that he would have beaten Jon, but he could have. He could have given Jon some real problems. And I only say that as a fan. Now, to get back to the question, what had happened there is Dan got hurt. He hurt his knee, if I'm remembering right. So he has to pull out of the fight, and the fight's in like 8 days. And Dana calls me and says, hey, you want to fight Jon Jones? He says, do you want to fight Jon Jones next weekend? I said, Dana, I'll fly to Vegas and fight Jon Jones tonight. Boom, I got the fight. And I knew I wasn't the first guy I knew I wasn't the only guy he called, and I also knew I wasn't the first. I couldn't give you any more information than that. I could just tell by the way he was calling me and the way he was talking to me and a little bit of the urgency in his voice. I also knew where the rankings were. I had never fought at light heavyweight, and I was just coming off a loss at middleweight. So just on logic alone, I'm probably not the first guy he called, but with that response, I was the last guy that he called. Boom, it was done. Whoever was calling back, whoever else had an offer but hadn't got to their phone, getting sent to voicemail. So, boom, got the fight. Everything's on. And I'm racing home to get to the gym. Calling my coaches. They don't know what's going on, and they also can't report it. It's a big secret until it's not. But it's not our job to report the news. Like, all the coaches together. I can't tell them over. I got to get them in a room together and explain what's going on. Explain that we're catching a plane in 3 days, and here's what's up, and we get the best game plan that we can. But new opponent, Jon Jones. And I was signed to fight Forrest Griffin. That was like 3 months down the road, though. So, hey, shift gears, Forrest out, Jones in. This is what happened. But I also had to get everybody together to explain to them, if anybody leaks this, if this gets out of this room, the fight's off. We're not going to get it. The only thing this fight is contingent on, so we don't break the news. Okay. So we go have a practice, and oh my goodness, it was terrible. I could barely get through the practice. I was so tired. And the intensity changes. As soon as you know there's a fight, you got a different intensity. Now that it's a 5-round fight, you got to do even more. And I could barely get through the practice. Oh, gosh. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do? And one thing to get myself in shape very fast is sprints. So, okay, I got to go home tonight. I got to get a night's sleep. I got to start monitoring my weight right away. And I was only about 222 pounds. So just what I would walk around at naturally. So 222 pounds. And so weight's not going to be an issue, but I got to start thinking about it. I got to get up tomorrow morning. I got to get some sprints in. I got to rush to get this cardio. So Jon Jones refuses the fight. And he refused it because I was a southpaw, for one, which is not what he was preparing for. But two, He thought that I knew about this for a period of time because Dan and I were teammates. He thought Dan and I put this plan together. Now, Jon isn't wrong to think those things, and he also isn't wrong to want to strategize and game plan for a southpaw. He was wrong in his guess in that I had no idea that Dan was pulling out. In fact, when Dana even called me and said, "Do you want the fight?" he never told me about Dan's knee injury or anything. So that part of it was wrong, but how would Jon know, right? Okay. So then I immediately get offered a fight, all within the same week, against Rampage. And Rampage not only turns it down, he publicly turns it down, and he puts me over by saying he's just going to take me down and hold me there. So he publicly conceded that I was going to beat him. Now, I wasn't overly excited to fight Jon Jones. I would never be overly excited to fight Rampage Jackson, but these guys both just publicly gave me the shine. They just rubbed me up and put me out. I didn't have to do a damn thing. I got to tell you guys, I have never had more street cred in my life. I have never walked around my local town where nobody gives a damn about me and had more people say nice things, stand out of the way, bow down, if you will, kiss the ring. I didn't do a damn thing. All I did is answer a phone and say yes 2 different times. So it was a little bit of a fun time for me. It lasted for a couple of months. I mean, you wouldn't believe I was getting sponsorship calls. Like, my life was changing. I didn't do anything to earn it, but I had these 2 studs both put me over. Jones put me over, Rampage put me all in the same week. Okay. So they end up there with such a buzz, and the fact that Jon Jones had turned the fight down, which gave me all of this credibility. It almost had done away with the fact that I was a middleweight. It did away with the fact that I had just lost my last fight. So this perception being reality thing, Dana wanted to do me a favor for being willing to do him a favor. So he gives me a commercial. He goes, "You know what? Fox is doing a commercial. They got a show called Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They want a UFC fighter. It's a good payday, 1 day's work. I'm giving this to you for being willing to help me out." Okay, great. I'm in. Just fly out to LA. And when I'm out there, I meet this gal, and she's an exec. And she informs me that she oversees some arm that oversees the Ultimate Fighter. Now, I was strategizing myself because I knew the Ultimate Fighter, what a great vehicle and a great driver it was for the sport, was also down. It was down. It had just come off Shane Carwin versus Roy Nelson as the coaches. And the numbers went, from 1 million per show. And I mean, it dipped hard. I don't know how low it went. I want to say in the 400 range. Even if I'm wrong, it was in the 600 range. But at that time, you're still talking about a 40% decline. And I knew they needed a personality for that show. And I never said anything. I never went to Dan. I never did anything like that. But I knew however I perform on this commercial in front of this exec who now I have just met and knows I'm a fighter, and I now know she cares about the Ultimate Fighter, this could be my way in. And if they put me opposite Jon Jones, that is going to force a world title fight. And I put all of this together in about 3 seconds, and I go into full mode. I mean, I go into full, as interesting as I could be, as funny as I thought I could be, as charming as I thought I could be. And you make a decision. Maybe I'm none of those things, but for whatever I thought I could be, I'm doing it because she's watching. And she's going to go to somebody, and it's going to be about the Ultimate Fighter, and I'm going to request Jones, and that's going to force a world title fight, and that's exactly what happened. And it actually, you want to know how I got that fight? You want to know how that whole opportunity came about? I was doing some scene. And in this particular scene, I don't have anything to say. We're sitting at a bar. I don't watch the show Always Sunny in Philadelphia, so I couldn't even tell you the character who I was mimicking. But we're sitting at a bar, and the waitress brings drinks over, and there's a conversation going on. You're kind of having your drink and nodding and doing things like this. Unscripted, and not that this is anything that would impress you, but unscripted, I look up to the waitress, and I tell her, I do the 1 more round sign. The waitress who isn't even there, just the camera's on me, and I look up to where she's like, 1 more round, and I mouth it. They loved it. Like, they thought that that was some kind of level of intelligence and charm. Boom. I'm coaching the Ultimate Fighter. Boom. I'm fighting Jon Jones.